And so, it begins. Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shimmering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Plz. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks. Welcome to Blue Plz here on cynicalbrit.com. With myself, TotalBiscuit. The date today is the 29th of October, 2010. It is 1 minute past 8 in the British Isles. It is 1 minute past 9 in Central European summertime. It is 1 minute past 3 on the east coast of the United States. 1 minute past 12 on the west coast of the United States. And if you live anywhere else, then you don't really exist. It's true. If you didn't realise that already, then I think that's something you need to start coming to terms with right away, because honestly, you're never going to be able to move on with your life otherwise. Yes, indeed. Welcome to the show. What a show I have for you today. So, thankfully, now that Blizzcon is over and done with, there's some actual information worth talking about, as opposed to what we had before, which was a total waste of time. Yes, I remember. Or, more to the point, I wish I didn't remember the nonsense last Friday. Oh, wow. Was that everything? Was that all? What a horrible, horrible opening ceremony. I don't think I need to really repeat myself on that one, because they got both ends from me last week on that, but, oh, garbage. I was thankful to watch some of the stream, like I say, the Raids and Dungeons panels, which I'll be talking about a little bit later on in the show. They were definitely worth listening to. Admittedly, a lot of that information we kind of knew already. Paragon Live Raid, that was really entertaining. You're going to have to I watched a little bit of it. I didn't really have the time. So I'm going to go back and watch it on the PVR, since I think we've still got like a week before we lose our ability to watch that stuff. Reminds me, I should probably fraps it and store it before that happens. We're talking about the Raids and Dungeons, talking about the open Q&A and the embarrassment of BlizzCon. I think you have probably all seen the video by now. Oh, lordy, Mr. Red Shirt. Never has there been a more appropriate name for that guy. Seriously, he'll be sent on the next away mission and killed by some kind of alien silicon beast. That was horrific. It does make me embarrassed to be a WoW player. I am totally honest about this, because people like that happen every single BlizzCon, and it is painful. Really incredibly painful. Oh, guys, why is this random obscure lore character that no one else pays attention to in this slightly different place? Don't you think that that's a critical lore mistake? And he just sort of leaps over the chairs, or he tries to. He's a little bit overweight, so he sort of falls flat on his ass, gets up, dusts himself down a bit, lunges at Chris Metzen. Chris Metzen's just got his hands thrown up in horror, like, oh god, no! It's okay, because he runs out of breath about halfway down the hall and starts wheezing and has an asthmatic attack. It's fairly bad. People like that, fairly bad. It's, well, Asperger's. How does it work, you know? Terrible. Aside from that, stuff. BlizzCon stuff, you know how it goes. And I'll be covering all of the stuff that was actually said in BlizzCon, the Q&A and things like that. The kind of thing that we tend to do when a Q&A comes out, which is just spend a show talking about the Q&A, work our way through it, comment on it. I tend to try and avoid reading as much of it as possible so that I can get more honest reaction to it when I read it. So if I read something that's incredibly dumb, I would like to be awestruck by how dumb it is and then convey it to you guys. If I read it, it kind of ruins it, you know? Not as surprising, not as terrifying, and certainly not as terrible. I've had time to digest the information. I've had time to come to terms with it. Ugh. But yeah, that's the show. Also, can't click some Q&A at the end of the show, as you might imagine. Email into themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com if you so desire something said or indeed answered. It may happen. Shoutouts will be at the end of the show, as you might imagine. Right, okay, updates. News for this week. On Monday the 1st, I am going into hospital for surgery, so I will not be around. Oh, I've got to stay in the hospital the entire goddamn evening. Ugh. I'm going to surgery about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not allowed out until Tuesday morning, which is going to be a total pain in the ass. Seriously, I have no desire to be there, but has to be done. My nose needs fixing. You've probably heard about it before. You've heard the results of it on some shows where I've been unable to properly breathe. The inside of my nose is being removed. However, I have to stay in for observation because otherwise I may bleed to death, which would kind of suck. We shall see. That should make the commentary a lot better, but I may be out of action for a few days. Obviously, I'll try and do videos as quickly as I can once I'm out of hospital, but I don't know how long I'll have to sort of have my nose packed with this stuff that stops me from dying. We'll see. Hopefully not too long. But whatever the case, if I still have problems by Friday, I will let you know, but video production will be significantly reduced over the course of the start of next week. So there you go, that is why. Aside from that, I don't think there's anything that really needs covering. People keep asking about the return of Shoutcraft. That's going to be soon, TM. Tomorrow I'm supposed to be getting a new computer. Now, that new computer is fairly powerful. By fairly powerful, I mean it has an i7-980X in it, 12 gigabytes of 2000 megahertz DDR3 RAM, and 3 NVIDIA GTX 480s. Also 6 terabyte RAID and some SSDs. I am told that that might be enough to play WoW with. We'll see. We will see. Okay. If that actually is, you know, if it works and it does its job, then Shoutcraft will return next week. And what I'll be able to do is broadcast and also Fraps at the same time, because that machine is quite silly. It has not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 cores! And 12 when you count the hyper-threading. It is delicious! Yeah. That might work. That might work. Oh, do I have the power supply? Yeah, it's 1200 watt. I'm fairly sure it should do the job. Okay. Ladies and gents, children of all ages, without further ado, it's time for this.
Mail time!
That sounds like it's mail time. Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to whack
my tail.
When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, indeed, folks, that is the mail time. That would be the time where we read the mail, as you might imagine. So what do we have? We have a few things. A few things. And a couple of emails in that I actually would like to read. A lot that I don't want to read, and have no interest in reading, because they're garbage. I like to say, well, I appreciate it when you email, but when you email in stupid things about... Oh, I had this horrible email. I don't tend to name and shame when I get stuff like this, because it's obviously from kids, but some guy was saying, oh, I'm doing bad at school, does that make me stupid? People keep saying I'm stupid because I do really bad at school, and like half of this thing is misspelled. It's goddamn horrible. Oh dear. Right. Let's have a look, shall we? Email comes in from Australia, from an Aussie digger. He says, "G'day, TotalBiscuit. I am an Australian trooper with the 1st Armoured Regiment. and listen to your show whenever I have some free time on the Barbie. Sorry, my Australian is pretty bad. Mostly because of the time differences, but I've listened to one live show. You're a pretty funny and intelligent guy. Her. But here's my question. Posting as much intelligence a year 10 dropout that went to the army can conjure forth. What would you do to improve pugs? I know you hate them and believe that fundamentally broken and evil. Being a vanilla player, farming the hell out of MC and Raggy to gear up my guild, I do hate the new era of super easy content, in which I actually found myself sleeping through many heroics in Wrath of the Lich King. See, although I hate the new super easy content, I think the idea of pugs is, well, a pretty good one, and I know you'll hear out my argument for pumping my body full of cynical death bullets. Well, maybe. However, here's my reasoning. Remember in the vanilla how it was really hard to find groups for things? Look, took forever and... No, I don't, because I was in a guild. There's a wonderful way to bypass all of this stuff. It's called being in a guild. Oh no, there are no pugs. It's really hard to find... Oh, I'm in a guild. Oh yeah, problem solved. I'm in a guild. So, guys, we can't find it. Oh, I'm in a guild. Oh, yeah, problem solved. That's the thing, isn't it? I don't remember LFG and LFM in capital cities. Why would I? Because I never used it. Because I was in a guild. I was always in a guild. I moved from several guilds to other guilds, and I was still always in a guild. So I never had to pug. Because you shouldn't be pugging if you can possibly avoid it. Anyway. It was annoying for a casual player, of whom the army has many. Now I play in guilds, so I don't have much of a problem. Well, there you go. But here's my argument about pugs. It brings casual players together quickly, and they can have a run through instances or quests. You want to know another way of bringing casual players together quickly? It's called form a casual guild, and then you're always together. Here's the thing, guys, really, and this is something you have to understand. And, you know, I know this guy's got a valid point in that there are some people that do have problems getting into regular stuff, but bear in mind that a guild is the most malleable and flexible and indeed vague concept imaginable. And a guild is a simple in-game system. Yeah, and that in-game system is, it puts you in a list and it gives you access to a shared chat room. That's what a guild is right now. You get a little name under your, well, name, and you get another tabard. That's what a guild is. That's all it is. And anything else that a guild becomes, and the guild that you are in, and what exactly it does, and what its particular ideas are, and its modus operandi, and its particular principles, and indeed its format, are entirely up to you. Which is why there are guilds for literally everything. There are hundreds of thousands of guilds. And if there isn't one to your taste, you can make one. And that's the whole thing about, you know, guys going on and saying, oh, well, I'm in a guild with my friends now. Well, yeah, that's the point, isn't it? It's so very, very easy to do that. It takes virtually no effort. And, of course, now you're going to be encouraged to be in a guild anyway. I don't see the problem with that, really. Now, if you're not in a reasonably sized guild, say it's just you and your friends, then you being in a guild, at least up until the start of Cataclysm, gave you absolutely no benefit at all. It's easy enough to coordinate with your friends and things like that. But the point of a guild is that you have ready access to a pool of players who are more inclined to group and help you. You know? You've got people that you will hopefully make friends with, or at least will get along with, to the point where they will actually go out of their way to assist you. You know, I used to do this, and a lot of other guild members used to do this. We didn't need anything from groups, but we'd go and do it anyways. Like TBC Heroics, for instance. We were running people through those. Why? Because they were in the guild. And actually playing with people makes otherwise mundane content a little bit more interesting. We did it in Wrath, and even then, you know, even in a guild with friends, mundane content is still mundane. But it's like watching paint dry on your own, and then watching paint dry with a group of 5 people who are good conversation. The watching paint dry doesn't get any more entertaining, but you are significantly distracted as to how boring the paint drying is by the fact that you are surrounded by people that you want to speak to. It makes it more pleasant. And then, of course, you do have a certain degree of quality control within a guild. You know? Bad players tend not to stick around in guilds, because guildies turn against them, and guildies talk to the officers, and officers say, well, you suck. You know, you are holding us back, so get lost. Now, as to how much quality control your guild's going to have, well, that really varies from guild to guild. And as I said before, guilds are the most malleable and liquid and flexible concept in the world. They can be literally anything. That's why Trollface is going to be interesting, honestly, because it's going to be lots of different guilds rolled into one guild, in some kind of super Zerg guild. Every possible concept of guild can be within that guild. It is a multi-guild guild. It is an omni-guild. It accommodates every possible playstyle split up into divisions and subdivisions. And even then, even with, say, the full 1,000-player count, or whatever the guild happens to be, it's still going to be a situation that there are other kinds of guilds that we do not incorporate, because there are so many different ways of skinning that particular animal. Now, he asks what I'd do to improve pugs. Well, I wouldn't. Because a pug is bad. A pug is a suboptimal way of doing things. And think about it for a second. Think about it in the concept of sports. What's better? A professional team, or indeed an amateur team that plays together all the time, or a bunch of randoms that you pulled in off the street to play a game of ball? Which is going to work better? Which is going to be more enjoyable for you? One is extremely suboptimal. You have no idea what you're getting into. That guy might suck. He might have 2 left feet. He might be an abusive bastard. He might go and punch you in the face for all you know. That's the equivalent of a pug right there. Even an amateur team is going to do better and is going to be a more enjoyable experience for you. Why? Because you know the guys. You've got a bit of camaraderie going on, and you actually get a little bit of enjoyment out of achieving and out of doing content in a group of people that you actually don't hate the guts of. There is nothing that you can do to improve pugs, because it's the very nature of random people on the internet. The very nature of said people is to be entitled, idiotic, self-loathing, obnoxious bastards. And the sooner you realise that, the happier you will be, folks, I'm afraid. CynicalBrit.com. Not happy, optimistic Brit. The simple fact of the matter is that people on the internet in general suck. Why? Because they are not held accountable for anything. People in general don't suck because they're held accountable. There are rules, but not here. Not on the internet. And in that environment, you can never fix that. You just can't. My name is TotalBiscuit. You're listening to Blue Plz here on CynicalBrit.com. I'll be back to talk about Blizzcon, and this is Kamelot with Kalmah. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on CynicalBrit.com.
Friend, I've got what you need. A premium quality Ventrilo server from UGTservers.com. It's goblin engineering, you see. Not like those inferior gnome products, always backfiring. If you're short on cash, you can even share the cost of the server with Guild Deposit. Have those lazy guildies of yours pay their dues. You know, I could offer you this amazing electric cattle prod that'll really get them moving.
UGTservers.com. Voice communication for your guild. Get yours today. You're listening to Blue Plz right here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. TotalBiscuit. Yes. He's the excessive version. He adds things to words that are not required. Yeah. TotalBiscuit. Okay. So, let's talk a little bit about this particular little animal. So, the Raids and Dungeons panel is always, in my opinion, the one and only reason to actually pay attention to BlizzCon. That's a lie. The other reason is to watch people break their legs at the dance contest and laugh. I'm going to hell, aren't I? Oh dear. He didn't actually break his leg, as far as I'm aware, but it was fairly amusing nonetheless. There were some pretty damn good costumes, I must say, though. It's not worth going to BlizzCon to see that, but it's certainly worth watching the stream, or at least grabbing some kind of, well, let's just say, less than legitimate version after the fact. Although there are some people that definitely should not be in costume, especially not when they're particularly revealing. I've got to say that frickin' priest, holy crap. Did you see that? That was unbelievable, with a big, stonking Ulduar mace. Awesome. So very awesome. I wonder if he was German. Seems like the Germans always bring the best possible costumes. Holy hell. Yeah, that was great. There were a few others that were fairly reasonable as well. The Deathwing was comical, I'll give you that. It wasn't particularly good per se, but it was very, very funny, so I don't really mind. There was also this really, really bad Moonkin. It's a really bad Moonkin, but I liked it anyway. It's just so... It looks like a moose! Oh, man. Righto, ladies and gentlemen. So, let's talk about what actually matters, and that's content, real content, stuff that matters, like the Raids and Dungeons panel. So, a lot of things were said there that I would like to touch upon, but the one that I want to talk about most is the concept of 2D maps for each dungeon with detailed boss info, including loot lore and abilities. Basically, in-game Atlas loot. So, the rundown of what this basically is, because they didn't really show an awful lot of it, they just talked about it very briefly, but it was I wouldn't say the highlight per se, because it's not amazingly good news, but it was one of the most poignant things actually said in the Raids and Dungeons panel, aside from the information about the Firelands, which is coming in patch 4.1. That's going to be a 7-boss raid dungeon, outdoor, but... let me put it this way about the Firelands. I liked the fact that they said, well, it's similar to the Hydro raid, the layout, not the terrible wave upon wave. Thank you, Blizzard, for really accepting that the Hydro model was awful and that you should never do it again. Oh, so bad. So very bad. Oh, God. I remember having to do the trash every time you wiped on a boss. Why would you do this? Oh... Why? So much horrible. Anyway. Detailed boss info. So here's how it goes. You won't have to pull a boss and die anymore to find out what he does. And they said, we're not going to tell you how the boss works, but we want you to have an idea of what you're getting into. There's also going to be a 3D portrait of the boss, which is entirely pointless. It helps with recognition, folks. You know what? I'm confused. I don't know which of these creatures is the boss. So there's these little trash mobs that say above them, Firelands Elemental, and Firelands Ravager, and Firelands Rock Fiend, and Firelands Boulder thing. And then you have this giant 40-foot-tall guy with a really nice model with a title, and it's like, Lord Burninator. Yes. Slayer of Peasants. I wonder which of these is the boss. Better get out a handy 3D portrait, folks. You know, this is the kind of thing where you could have a little bit of augmented reality going. You hold your iPhone up to the screen, and then it recognizes the various models and says, this one is the boss. And then I shoot myself, because the world has gone to hell. Anyway. These abilities will appear in both dungeons and raids. What do I think about that? God. It's such a difficult subject to broach, because there's the part of me that knows exactly how things work and how raiding has worked for the past 5 or 6 years. Hell, not just raiding, dungeons in general, you know, when you actually needed strats for dungeons. Before the Ratha Nation, whereby you didn't need anything. And then there's the idealist within me, which is not entirely extinguished by the tides of my cynicism, although it's getting there, I must say. It goes with age, folks, trust me. By the time I'm 30, I will hate everything and everyone. And that part of me says, oh, I wish people could experience what it's like learning a boss for the first time and actually working out its mechanics as you go. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't appreciate that, because... well, they're not the kind of person that enjoys venturing into the unknown. That's a shame. I think those of us who are maybe older gamers that are used to doing things and playing games before the age of Game Whacks and YouTube Let's Plays and things like that, maybe have a little bit more fondness for the idea of taking on something and learning about it through failure and learning about it as you go and exploring the actual boss's mechanics. And then the newer generation, perhaps, is all about the guides and the walkthroughs and the hibbity-hop and things like playing it optimally and saying, oh, well, you know, if you don't do this with 110 frickin' %, then you are useless and you must use everything at your disposal to make sure that happens. They're the same kind of people that buy fast trigger and modded controllers to play Call of Duty. They're the same kind of people that buy those stupid $80 glasses that apparently make you see better on the damn screen. They give you a higher contrast ratio so you can determine who is your enemy and who is not. They're the kind of people that buy gamer grub and really expensive keyboards and think it makes them elite. They're the kind of person that, on a recent video that I linked on my channel, a very, very good remix of some Sonic music, done in fact by the same guy who did the Streets of Rage stuff in the pre-show, Andy Gillian, will say, you are a noob because you didn't get Hypersonic. These are the kind of people they are. If you do not play 110% oh my god optimal, then you are a waste of flesh. And in order to do that, of course, you need every advantage you can get, and wasting time by learning a fight is suboptimal, because I must blast through the content as quickly as possible. Now, there is some respect, of course, to be had for people that really, really want to optimize their game and play to the best of their ability. Indeed, I wish everyone would. However, it does come down to the simple fact, and this is where the realist comes in, that these guides, these descriptions as to how things work, they will always exist. They have always existed. There was a... That's not actually true, is it? There was a short period of time. I don't believe this carried on much into Tier 2.5, but up until about Tier 2, there was a time when boss strategies for raid encounters were actually kept secret. They were very, very hard to access. Indeed, I recall one of the first guilds that started releasing that information was Inner Sanctum. I remember reading Inner Sanctum raid guides for Molten Core. This, of course, was way after everything had been beaten. But raid strategies were kept secret. Raids were not filmed. It seems odd now in the days of where getting the kill video out is of paramount importance, getting the guide out is of paramount importance. Hell, if you remember Boss Killers before it sold out to gold sellers and became useless, used to pay people for the guides. They used to demand, absolutely demand, that you get the guide up as quickly as possible so you could get a cash bounty. That used to be the way of things. And now it still is, really. The world first kill video is actually, in many cases, vital. There are several companies, mine being one of them, that does make its money off of producing videos like that. And getting it out first is important. It has actually become business to some degree. Which, of course, is good for a lot of people, including myself, who want to do this for a living, but it's not so good on the simple fact that nobody really gets to explore the fight anymore. You have to make a concerted effort to avoid this kind of information. You would have to have a guild that swears off guides completely and learns the old-fashioned way. You know, it would be interesting, actually, if we got a division within Trollface that did that. People that never watched my wipe-a-thons and never watched my raid guides and don't read strategies and things like that and just go into dungeons completely blind. I think it's quite sad, actually, that because they're testing so much of this raid content, and we have covered the idea before that this is... It's not that it's bad, because the net result is that you get a more stable and more balanced encounter, but it's bad in the sense that Blizzard doesn't properly balance their own stuff and can't properly test their own stuff, so you run into the situation that all of the fights have been done and catalogued and have diagrams and pie charts and nice things like that all ready for you. I mean, that's a lot of the raid content that I have done so far. I mean, I've done everything in Bastion of Twilight, with the exception of one fight, which, credit to them, as far as I can tell, they are not going to release Lady Sinestro within the beta, and I would hope not. That fight should not be tested. That's one of the super uber hard bosses, ladies and gents. You can only unlock that by beating Cho'Gall on Heroic. So this boss is amazing god tier uber boss, and I'm really looking forward to giving it a try. That will probably not be tested. But everything else, I mean, there are strategies out for all of the Blackwing Descent bosses. There are strategies out for all of the Bastion of Twilight bosses, and I believe Alakia now have a strat as well. So that information is there. Not for the heroics, yet, but it will be. Because, again, it is business. When it comes to written guides, we're talking about getting people to your site. I mean, you've got community sites like Mana Flask who are putting out a lot of written guides, and they're very good written guides. And like I say, Mana Flask is a great site, run by Insidia and For the Horde. Exceptional raiding community site. I'd highly recommend you check it out. Getting the guides up for them ensures the continued survival of the site, because if you don't get hits on your site, you can't generate revenue and you can't keep it running. And then, of course, the community stagnates and dies because no one's posting there. So, yeah, that's just the simple reality of it. Putting it in-game is an interesting idea, because they're saying that they're not going to tell you how the boss works, but they're going to tell you about his abilities. Well, here's the thing, and this is what I would say to people who are perhaps very turned off by this change. A lot of that stuff is already there and has been for a while. You've been able to click abilities within-game for quite some time, and they will tell you what they do. The thing is, in the middle of a fight, it's a bit of a pain in the ass, and sometimes he won't do the ability, so you don't get to click on it and read it. To me, that just seems like they're implementing what's already in the game into a more manageable and easy-to-read format. And what I will say about it is that I like the idea that they're putting a lore description in. What I would also say to Blizzard about that is not an excuse to completely ignore the idea of delivering lore via in-game cutscenes and in-game events, which is the most effective way as far as I'm concerned. For instance, I like to give a prime example of this. This is something that's in the Blackwing Descent, and something I hope will continue to be in current raid dungeons and future ones. Antramides, you remember that guy, the Sonic Dragon, the second boss? I think he's the second boss. He might not be. The Omnitron defense system might be, but like I said, they keep taking encounters offline and online, and it's difficult to tell which is first. There's a cutscene with Nefarian and Melodic, the chief alchemist, whereby it shows you how Antramides was created. It was a botched experiment by Melodic on a little whelp, and he ended up blinding the whelp. But Nefarian, instead of having it destroyed, said, I might have a use for this one, and he actually trains it and creates this giant blind dragon out of it. And funnily enough, now we have more lore about Antramides than we do about most of the other non-critical raid bosses. I mean, what's the lore behind XC002? What's the lore behind Flame Leviathan? What's the lore behind most of the stuff in Icecrown Citadel, for instance? Who the hell's Lord Marigar? Lady Death Whisper? I mean, Sourfang's got a bit of lore behind it. But the rest of it, Putricide, Rotface, Vestiger, like I said, there's no lore there. So it would be nice if not only if we get those descriptions, because I will happily read them. You know, I like reading about boss lore. It's kind of neat. It's probably the only part of the lore I actually care about. It would be nice if we can get that in combination with more of these in-game events and cutscenes. And as regards to actual strategy, here's the thing. They are going to get it one way or the other. It might as well be in-game, and it might as well at least have some information. Because then at least you're not telling people, oh, you're going to go read this, go do that, and at least pugs, for anything, don't have an excuse for not knowing what an encounter actually does. Not that they'll read this stuff anyway. You know, we're talking about bad players here. I don't really see the problem with it. It's not worth raging about because, like I say, the net effect on the actual game is nil. From a design philosophy standpoint, I think it's difficult to justify not putting it in there, and at the same time, it's a real shame that they've had to go to that point. Because I do remember times, and indeed have done so in the beta, where we've been doing encounters that have not had guides. And I'll tell you what, it is a great, great feeling indeed. My name's TotalBiscuit, you are listening to Blue Plz here on CynicalBrit.com. This is Kalmah. The name of this track is Heroes to Us. I'll be right back after this to go through some Q&A with you. Enjoy. You are listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on CynicalBrit.com.
It be another quiet night in the swamp, my friends. Time again to be channeling the powers of the voodoo, like Vol'jin taught us, and seeing into the mists of time. I see a place where the throes of the future will go for the entertainment. A place called GotGame.com. By clairvoyance, I be seeing the horde favorite original shows like Game Nights TV, The Irate Gamer, Virtual Rob, The Swag Show, Gaming Mysteries, and something called Mr. Suck. These be the kind of things that would make the Dark Spear proud.
GotGame.com is your video game source for entertaining and original videos, reviews, and more. Preferred by trolls everywhere. Yes, indeed, folks, you're listening to Blue Plz here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. Blizzcon stuff. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about more Blizzcon stuff. BlizzCon stuff. So, what are we going to talk about? Well, there's a few things we can say. What we're going to do is finish off the raid stuff, and then we can go on. I don't know. Should we finish? Yeah. Let's finish off the raid stuff, because there were some Q&A questions. There weren't all that many, I must say, which is actually a good thing. Either it means they've covered everything you want to hear, or they've actually filled the time with real content as opposed to idiot Spurge Lords asking incredibly terrible questions.
Why is this minor lore character over here now, Metson?
So, raids and dungeons Q&A, doo-da, doo-da, let us do the Q&A, ooh-da-doo-da-dee. Will there be a better system to prevent ninja looting on the LFG system, ooh-da-doo-da-dee? There are a couple of improvements in Cataclysm. The loot systems are more strict and people aren't able to roll on something they can't wear. They could already... Well, they can actually do that already. I wasn't aware of that. Well, I suppose now they've got the disenchant mechanic, it doesn't really matter much, does it? Yeah. Thing is, you're never gonna stop ninja looting, because that's the nature of pugs in general. It's also the nature of these ridiculous loot systems. At the end of the day, if you are at a boss encounter and you down the boss encounter, at the very basic level, you are entitled to roll upon it. At the very basic level. Of course, that's not morally acceptable. It's like, at the basic level, you'll go out for a meal, and you get a free bread basket. You are entitled, as a single diner, to eat the entire bread basket. But it wouldn't be very polite, because the other diners would get nothing. Thing is, you're still entitled to roll on it at the very basic level. And no doubt people are raging, oh my god, you can't say that. It's like, no, at the very basic level. Let's take humanity out of the equation. Let's take all common sense out of the equation and just take it down to very basic game mechanics. You killed the boss. The loot belongs to the group. You have the right to roll on the loot. Of course, they've put in systems that prevent you from doing so. I mean, I'm totally in favour, obviously, of disabling the ability of people to roll on stuff they actually can't use. That's fine. That's totally fine. There's no way a clothy should be rolling on a piece of mail. The fact that that could even happen is ridiculous. There was an excuse up until Wrath, where you had the DE option. Thankfully, you don't really have an excuse for that anymore. But always bear in mind that people's idea of ninja looting is very flexible depending on what they would like. Let's say you're gonna pug, and you say, and you're not the pug leader, oh, this amazing magic hat is reserved to me, and then someone else rolls on it, are they a ninja looter? Well, no, because people didn't agree to your stupid rules. If everybody agrees to them, and then someone does it anyway, then sure, but like I said, people use the term ninja looting far too liberally. Next question. Now that 10 and 25-man raids have the same difficulty, how do you balance them and make them the same difficulty? That's a really bad freaking question. It's redundancy, isn't it? You know, now that these are the same difficulty, how do you make them the same difficulty? Well, balancing is very hard, they said. Really? But it's also a very high priority. Encounters should be roughly the same difficulty. It might take some time, but developers will get them to the same difficulty. The thing is, they don't need to get them to the same difficulty, and they've said this before, and they need to stop pretending that it's absolutely 110% possible to balance each individual encounter that way. You can't. What you can do is balance a raid dungeon. It is possible to do an overall balance. You know? Let's say, you know, and this is a ridiculous concept, let's say arbitrarily that each boss has a difficulty rating from 1 to 10, and this dungeon has 4 bosses in it. Both the 10 and 25-man modes have a total of 40 difficulty points within said dungeon. However, they may be distributed in different ways. Say the first encounter might be a difficulty of 6 for the 10-man group, but only 4 for the 25-man group, whereas the second encounter might be equal, so it might be 5 and 5. Things like that. You can balance it over the course of an entire dungeon. You don't have to balance individual encounters. What I've seen, by the way, I've done a little bit of 25-man, and what I've seen is that they've done a pretty damn good job of it, but there are obvious differences. Like, say, Valiona and Thuralion on 25-man mode versus 10-man mode. Well, what have you got to worry about? It's harder on 25-man mode. You want to know why it's harder on 25-man mode? Because you get multiple of those engulfing magics, and you also have a lot more people, so you have a lot less space to work in. You can't really stack up because of the engulfing magics, and if you end up getting 2 engulfing magics in your group at the same time, then you could be in an awful lot of trouble. That said, there are other bosses that do, without a question, favour 25-man over 10. Like, for instance, Melodic. Melodic blatantly favours 25-man. Why? Because you could actually spare an extra tank to split the ads into 2 and just tank them at opposite sides of the room, and you won't even have to worry about it. Whereas in the 10-man mode, you just can't do that. You won't have the DPS to kill it. So you got more margin for error on the 25-man. The thing is, that's okay. That's the way it should be. They really should not be attempting this perfect balance on a encounter-by-encounter basis. They should simply do it on a dungeon-by-dungeon basis. That is the way it should be. The only problem, I suppose, with that is about the bloody flexible lockout system. It's a shame that they had to put that in there, because that's going to make their balancing job a whole lot harder. Because what you could technically do right now is you could say, oh, right, well, this encounter favours 25-man mode. Switch over to 25 for this one, beat it easier. Okay, well, this one favours 10. Okay, split into 2 10-man groups. It's, you know, that I hate that idea. That idea is horrible. So I suppose maybe they do have to do that as a direct result of their own silliness. Flexible lockout is just stupid. I'm sorry, it is. So you don't get to raid this week, or you don't get to raid today because someone is late. That is a guild problem. Doesn't need to be fixed by Blizzard. That is a guild problem. So your dudes didn't turn up. Get better dudes. Have spare dudes. That's an organizational issue. That's a logistical issue. That's not something that Blizzard has to fix. And of course, they create an entire new selection of problems by just implementing this damn system to begin with. Now they do actually have to balance everything on an encounter-by-encounter basis, or else every fight's going to min-max to hell between 25 and 10-man, and the 10-man progression path is going to be rendered totally irrelevant. Anyway, next question. With the flexible raid lockout system, is there anything to prevent people from leaving the group as soon as something bad happens? It will get better over time. As players get better and get used to the new system, you will likely get a much better pug experience. No, you won't. You want to know why you won't get a much better pug experience? Because you have said without a shadow of a doubt that you should be in a guild. Which means the only people that won't be in a guild are bads. It's as simple as that. Well, I would like to play suboptimally today, so I'm not going to be in a guild. Right. Alternatively, I'm an obnoxious twat, ergo I can't get into a guild. Or I can't stay in a guild for more than 5 minutes without making people want to throw me off a bridge. No, it's not much better pug experience. Don't lie, it's going to be a much worse pug experience. And that's how it should be, folks. Harder dungeons, harder encounters, more benefits for guilds. Make pugs die. Pugs suck. No reason to be in it. That said, the question is fairly valid, honestly. well, something bad happened, let's just leave because it doesn't matter, because we can just switch to another one. Again, all very easily avoided by guilding. Legendary weapons with 10 and 25 man lockouts being combined in Cataclysm. Are there any plans to go back to Ulduar and Icecrown Citadel in regards to Shadowmourne of Valinor? Are we going back to change the way the fragments drop? That's a good point. Will we bring that up? We'll bring that up in the office on Monday. It's a great suggestion. I have no idea what they're even talking about here. So, next question. Are you changing BRD? Yeah. So, BRD is problematic according to them. That doesn't really... I don't really blame them. BRD is so freaking huge. I mean, what the hell do you do to BRD without completely breaking how cool an instance it is? I mean, it's too big. There's just no question about it. It's cool, but it's such a relic of the time when you spent 5 hours in a 5-man and still didn't manage to kill everything. Oh, man. This is a good question. Oh. Ooh, yes. This is interesting because this question seems to have been partially influenced by me. I don't know if this is the case, you know, maybe great minds think alike, but comes on and says, I'm concerned about encounter mechanics, like more hard stuff. My main concern is that the binary sort of thing, that this is, unfortunately this guy can't really speak properly. My main concern is, and I'm translating here, the binary kind of thing, that certain mechanics are big and flashy or something really subtle or obvious but won't kill you immediately. Is there any middle ground? Even then, that still doesn't make an awful lot of sense. So, as far as I can tell, what this guy is basically saying is there any middle ground between big flashy mechanics that kill you immediately and... I actually don't know. I don't know what he's saying here. Let's read the answer. Maybe we can translate it. We talk about that quite a lot, and it's actually a pretty nasty design problem. Tanks and healers have a lot of things on their hands. If you're taking a little bit of damage, you're probably going to blame the healer. Well, you shouldn't. We're trying to make things more visual, and hopefully you won't have to look at a buff stacking for an encounter. One of the new things we have in Cataclysm are meters that the dungeon guys can script to make some of the mechanics more visual. Like the Blind Dragon Antramides, which has a sound bar. Yeah, it's true. It's funny because, like I say, that question sounds very much like what I said. The bigger, wow, what is a big ear? The bigger and more flashy a mechanic is, the more likely it should be to kill you. Whereas the subtle stuff should be damage, but not immediately lethal. Unless you're doing really, really hard stuff, of course, in which case, by all means. The visual stuff is good. The bars are really good. I like them very, very much. Although, what I've said before is the bar on Antramides is stupid because it's not really a bar, and you can't tell exactly how full it is. It's really hard to tell on first glance. It should have a traditional bar. It shouldn't have that little blobby circly thing. But hey, whatever. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, there should be a variety of abilities. Why wouldn't there be? There should be a middle ground between subtle and, oh my god, this is a giant fireball from the sky. I'm really dumb if I stand in it. That's the whole point of good raid design, isn't it? To make sure that there is a reasonable amount of flexibility. Okay. Are there any plans to make legendary weapons guild-bound due to achievements? Guild-bound? What, where you can pass it around in a guild? Oh. Seems ridiculous, doesn't it, when you think about it? That said, I'm sure some people would quite like to get rid of their Sulfuras Hand of Ragnaros. So we picked up the bindings, we didn't know what they did. That was true, actually, back in the day. Nobody had any idea what that was all about. Oh, what the hell am I talking about Sulfuras? Seriously, I'm talking about the Blessed Blade of the Windseeker. Although Sulfuras does kind of count, although not so much. The bindings were BOP, if you remember correctly. It doesn't seem a particularly good idea, does it? Now, there's one last thing I'd like to cover, and that is in a bit of information that was posted by Zahim regarding the Raids and Dungeons panel and raid philosophy. Quote, ever since Ulduar, philosophies for heroic raid dungeons and lockout systems have been steadily evolving. Ulduar presented players with the first ever opportunity to toggle the difficulty of a boss for greater challenge and access to better loot. But the system was somewhat confusing, requiring players to know how to trigger heroic difficulties through specific gameplay mechanics that varied by encounter. In Trial of the Crusader, players were granted the ability to toggle heroic difficulty directly through the UI, but could only change it once. In Icecrown, we melded the mechanics of Old War and Trial to give the players the flexibility to choose between normal and heroic difficulties via the UI on a boss-by-boss basis, and we're still making tweaks. Yeah, it's just a shame, really, that they couldn't go back to the old way of triggering heroics. I mean, when you've got that map interface that explains all of this stuff, I just don't see why they couldn't go back to the neat version of it. And the thing about the neat version, bear in mind, ladies and gents, is that the old way of doing things, either the Sartharian way, I'm talking about the Freya way, the Flame Leviathan way, is that you got those non-binary hard modes. And my concern is that, if you recall a while ago at one of the games conventions, Tom Chilton was saying, we are looking into making sure there was more than just an easy and a hard difficulty. Of course, he didn't say that, because he'll never admit that normal mode is too easy. He said normal and heroic, whereas we all know it's easy and hard. The problem is that if they're going to stick with this system, it just seems so very, very unlikely that they're going to go back to the idea of non-binary hard modes, which, as far as I'm concerned, were the optimal and the best way of designing raid content. Why? Because it gave people flexibility to take on the encounter on their own terms, but without sacrificing the integrity of the particular fight. It's just such a shame now that they've gone back to binary, which, as far as I'm concerned, is incredibly lazy, and it doesn't seem like they're going to change that anytime soon. My name is TotalBiscuit. You are listening to the one and only Blue Plz here on CynicalBrit.com. After the break, we'll be coming back to the general Q&A. Oh, God. Oh, why? Why, oh, why, Delilah? I would love to know, but there is no reason behind it. No rhyme, no reason. Oh, so very horrible. Let's play some music to hopefully flush that out of your mind. Bit of Pinball Map sounds like an idea as far as I'm concerned. This is by a band that you should know that are now rubbish. They are called In Flames. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on CynicalBrit.com. Yes, indeed, folks, you are listening to Blue Plz here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. It is time to venture into the murky depths. The void. It is devoid of common sense, devoid of any semblance of social skill. It is the Blizzcon 2010 Open Q&A. Indeed. Currently in the game, you can use the Dungeon Finder to put together 5-man teams within a battle group. Is there any possibility you can revisit that for making raids? Oh, please no. Please no. Here's the thing. Stop plugging! God, don't make it... Don't give them that functionality. I can't find anyone on my realm to raid with because I'm terrible and everyone's blacklisted me because I'm an absolutely awful and unbelievably obnoxious tard. Please allow me to infect other realms with my stupidity. The answer. The way we tune our raids demands the players use several compositions, buffs, and debuffs represented, and it's pretty hard to apply there. You may not always have the best players with you. That's not an answer. That's not even close to being an answer. But whatever, he's sort of kind of right. Oh, man. No. Cross-realm pugging. Cross-realm pugging. Cross-realm pugging of raids. Oh, the lack of accountability. Have you already seen how absolutely obnoxious people are in cross-realm pugs and battlegrounds? Because they know they're never going to have to deal with these people again. Unless they're, of course, incredibly unlucky. At least on your realm, you can be held accountable for being an idiot. If you're pugging with people that aren't even on your realm, oh god, it's such a terrible idea. People don't engage their brains before asking these questions, just seriously. Next one. I was wondering if there are any plans in future to make racers look apart more. When you place the same armor on either of them, they look pretty much the same. Oh, man. Either of them? You know what either means? You know what either means? When you say either, you imply that there are only ever two races. It's just... no. What does that even mean? It's like, currently there are no solid plans for this random thing that you came up with, but we're tossing some stuff around. That's like the, who are you? Stop asking me dumb questions. Yes, I will use the plague. In fact, I might even be dying from the plague at this very moment. They already do look different. Have you seen the difference between a Tauren and a gnome in bloody battle armor? Yeah, exactly. Next question. Any plans on adding a guild merging system? That sounds like a great idea. Now we can have not one... Where's the button? I'm sure I have it right here. Yes, indeed. Here it is. Maybe. Possibly. Where is it? Ah.
Not one, but two Jormungandr worms.
No. We don't have any plans for adding a feature, but merging a guild is easier to do due to the new guild interface. It wasn't hard to do to begin with. Disband guild, invite other guildies. Problem solved. Next question. I love what you guys have done with WoW. I love that there's a lot of strong female characters, though I wonder if we can have some of them that didn't look like they came out of the Victoria's Secret catalogue. Okay, answer to this. Go have a look at Therazane in Deepholm, and then tell me that that strong female character, actually the strongest, as far as I can tell, one of, if not the strongest female character in the entire game, based on the fact that she's a frickin' giant elemental lord, is coming out of the Victoria's Secret catalogue. Because I can tell you that, if she's out of the Victoria's Secret catalogue, then, oh man, that catalogue has gone way downhill. Holy. Oh. I would not, in fact, hit it. That I can tell you. I wouldn't hit it with a gunship. Ugh. The answer is, which catalogue would you like them to step out of, then? Well, we feel you. We want to vary our female characters more in the future, so we'll pick different catalogues. All the female characters don't look like they're out of the Victoria's Secret catalogue. Oh, please. I don't know. I can't comment on this because I'm male. I'm not allowed to have an opinion. Let me guess. The person that said this was female, blatantly. There are a couple of things that... problem I've got, actually, is not so much that they look at they've come out of the Victoria's Secret catalogue, is that they're all wearing the same stuff out of the Victoria's Secret catalogue. And there's a lot of variety in that catalogue, and we don't get to see it. Stuff like Ysera is exactly the same model as... what's-her-face? What's the big dragon? The Lifebinder. Yeah, I can't remember her name. Whatever. Yeah, that big frickin' dragon who, in Blood Elf form, is, well, not wearing all that many clothes. That said, if you were a dragon, would you care? I'm going to dress modestly. No! It's a frickin' dragon! Dragon doesn't give a damn what you think! Oh, man. They don't all look like that. That's absolutely absurd. Okay, what else? With the talent tree overhaul, are you guys planning to do more passive talents? We're still in phase 1 of the balance, and those are currently going live, so we'll tweak them over. Although they were planning to have less passive talents, I thought that was the point. I remember reading about it, actually, when we talked about this on the show, when they first announced it. We're going to get rid of all of the really boring passive talents, and, oh, actually, we seem to have forgotten to do that. Are we going to add more? Yeah, let's add more passive talents. I think it's selective memory loss or something. I remember what they said, and now they're going back on it in a 180. Please don't do that. Passive talents are boring. Avoid them whenever possible. At least give them some kind of active component when you can. Next question. In PvP, some people can be crowd controlled up to 20 seconds consecutively. Switch to PvE, one target can be CC for 1 minute. Not much skill to that. Seems like more of a statement than a question. Pfft. Dumbass. Not much skill, guys. You see, in PvP, I can crowd control for 20 seconds, but in PvE I can do it for 1 minute. Guys, there seems to be some kind of skill ceiling disparity right here. Could we get it... Could we get it sorted, please, please, please? Oh, please! It's such a dumb thing. It's like... Guys, why does this apple taste different to this orange? Oh. It's not the same thing. Not much skill. There is no skill involved in clicking a button 20 seconds at a time on a target that is going to do something incredibly predictable. You want to know why it was nerfed in PvP? It used to be really bad. I used to be able to polymorph someone for 30 freaking seconds at a time. Needless to say, that was nerfed. Why? Because sitting in PvP being polymorphed for 30 seconds at a time is really boring. Thankfully, we don't have to ask the PvE mobs whether or not they're bored by being chain CC'd. Sorry, what is your philosophy with CC now, and what might change in Canada? It's a different answer depending on PvE and PvP. Well done! In PvE, we want people to use more CC than they did in Lich King. We want stuff to be CCable as possible, and anytime we make something immune, there's a lot of consideration. Do we really have to do this? As it relates to PvP, the approach we're taking now is to slow down the pace of the combat. Anytime you slow it down, then CC has less of an impact. Yeah. I suppose it does. And that's the easy answer to it. People obviously go into these BlizzCon Q&As with all of this pent-up rage. I'm a PvPer and I see some kind of inherent disparity between our playstyles. Give me this! Lich King has a lot of really cool abilities DKs could use. Have you given any thought to giving us Defile or Infest? Level 90 abilities right there, thanks. Yeah, that was hard. So, these bosses have all these different abilities. Have you thought about giving them to players? Oh, man. Are there any plans to add a legendary DPS dagger? No. Next question. Will I be able to get my Warglaives in Cataclysm? Yes, everything except for Atiesh, because teleporting to Karazhan is important at 85. Now, the funny thing is that I got emails by people saying, what do you think of the statement that teleporting to Karazhan is important at 85? They listen to me on a weekly basis and still they don't have a sarcasmometer. Next question. With all the specs being viable now, can arenas finally be balanced around comp instead of the viability of each class? I think we'll still have arenas balanced around viability, but we're always looking at changes. One change coming up for beta is that Mortal Strike will only reduce heals by 10%. Yeah, I noticed that. It's bizarre, isn't it? Makes it almost non-existent. But then again, you've also got things now that can apply Mortal Strike to basically everything. Yeah, weird. I don't really care. It's PvP. Next question. Did you not add a moose mount because you hate Canada? Let me just point this out for you. There are people that pay $150 just for the ticket. They stand in line for hours. They take time off work or school. They pay an awful lot more than that in travel expenses, hotel expenses, food, and merchandise. And they do all of that so that they can sit in an open Q&A and ask why they haven't added a moose mount. Just think about that for a second. Just let that sink in. Is that indeed, ladies and gentlemen, not the reason we cannot have nice things? Are we ever going to see the Emerald Dream again, aside from a phase? You can count on it, it's just a question of when, but you'll definitely see the Dream again and the Nightmare. Okay, cool. There's an awful lot of great mounts coming out. I was wondering about profession-created multi-passenger mounts. If so, engineering needs a minivan. Heard about the new Alchemy mount? It'll be fun to see who gets that first. Who doesn't want to mount their friend, I mean? Don't say that. It'll give people ideas. Have you never been to Goldshire before? Don't give people ideas. This is the same reason why the bloody Worgen female dance is terrible. I shall grope myself. It is fine. It won't give any furries any ideas. Ugh! Excuse me while I vomit and then die. Next question. Will the new Legendary be available in both 10 and 25 man? Yes. Next question. Because I originally liked the idea you had about lowering the talents, but now I really hate the fact that there's no uniqueness anymore. Everyone is in the same number and combo of talents at the moment. Are you ever going to extend it again for more options? That's an interesting one. Do you think the specs in the deeper trees were very different to one another? They weren't. It's a new design. The last 10 points are the most exciting ones to spend. We'll see what specs develop. Hopefully we can tweak things, and there were cookie-cutter specs before this change, and there probably will be for some time as well. Well, there will be, when you think about it. He has a point, you know. And the point of Blizzard is fairly valid, honestly. Why is it valid, you might ask? Well, because, yeah, that is exactly how specs used to work. You just get the ideal spec of EJ, you implement it, and suddenly you are optimal. As it stands, the talents in beta certainly aren't that bad. I think they could still use a little bit of work, but I do kind of like having to choose between certain things. The bigger problem that I have with that is that it just encourages speccing between one thing and another. And it just, like I said, is there really any point anymore to the idea of having to go back to town to respec and things like that? But like I said, I don't think they've done a terrible job with the talents thus far. They're not bad. Fairly reasonable. Okay. Next question. Do you tend to make anything except heirlooms account bound, pets, achievements, etc.? Sure. Next question. Don't care. I would like to ask for a closet. We get all this awesome stuff from events, but have no place to put them. You do. It's called a bank. Next question. The Horde currently has 2 very good battle cries. Can you give some characters what? Can you give some characters somewhere to shout back at Alliance? What? That doesn't make any sense! These people, they can't even speak. They get nervous in front of their idols. You want to know why you can't have a manly battle cry as the Alliance? Because you're the Alliance! Next question. You stated that you want Mastery to dynamically change up some of the gameplay, but some of it is just flat damage bonuses, not very exciting. Crit makes you hit harder. Haste makes you do more things. Mastery generally makes you better at what you do, particularly for mages. Haste does a pretty good job at that already, but the goal isn't necessarily to modify your rotations. Well, yeah, it's just an extra stat that gives you some options, and it's going to be spec-dependent. Nothing wrong with that. Extra stats are kind of cool. And this is why I sort of approved of getting rid of all of the crappy stats and making some new stats that actually influence the game a little bit more and give you more choice in terms of reforging your gear. This is good. Or is it? I'm working on Insane in the Membrane. With all the changes to Diamond North, will I still be able to achieve this? The biggest problem with the changes to the Bloodsail Buccaneers, that kind of put a bullet in that feat of strength for now. It's fun to do painful things in WoW. No, it's not. If there's a huge outcry for it, we'll try and put something equally brutal in the game. Yeah, by the way, guys, you're not going to be able to get Insane in the Membrane after Cataclysm launches. So that is a very good thing indeed, and also addresses the concern of what I said last week in regards to Insane in the Membrane becoming trivial. Even though I don't care about it, other people do. Oh, man. With the existence of Pandarans being hinted at, are Pandarans still being excluded away? Stop. Will you stop with the bloody Pandarans? Oh, please. In terms of voice acting, I noticed that Metzen is missing from the panel. Every new major character sounds like Thrall. Are you guys willing to open auditions for players? Oh, no! No, don't do that, guys! Don't! Have you seen most Machinima? Tell me that you really want players voice acting things. At least, just get professional voice actors that also happen to play the game. I can think of 1 or 2 off the top of my head. I'm desperate for another character slot. Pfft. Give us some more room. This is kind of mean. Do you need 12 for your 12-step program? I can offer you another 10 slots for $15 a month. Yeah, but the thing is, you would do this! And I know the joke is, oh, buy another account, but I know for a fact, Blizz, that you would actually sell extra character slots. So don't make jokes about that. We've seen what you are willing to sell already. You will sell extra character slots if you think there is a market for it. So don't make jokes about that. I would call it self-deprecating humor, but I don't really think he realizes just how true it is. Next question. I have a lot of low-level friends. Oh, cute. Are you planning something for me to quest with them without being penalised? Yeah, sidekick system. Go and steal it, Blizz. You know it's a good system. Loads of other games have it. Go steal the sidekick system. Just do it. Just do it. Right, we're not going to do class stuff, but we will get to the end of the general stuff right here. People love legendaries. Maybe trade them in for an heirloom version so they can level with it. That'd be awesome, but we don't want people feeling like they need to go back to old content to get legendaries. So, disable the legendaries. Why is it that we can still even get them? You know? Why don't we just give them to the people that got them when they were worthwhile and said, hey, you did something really, really cool, so why don't you have a BOA version of it? But everyone else can't have it! Oh! Oh, please. Why is it that everyone else has to have everything? It ceases to become special if everyone has the bloody legendary. Next question. When are we getting a Tabard tab? Get a mod? Any better plans to integrate the TBC races into the lore? We've kind of failed at bringing Draenei into the WoW culture. We tried to do it more with Cataclysm. We're not there yet, but it's better. Well, they are freaking aliens. You know what you should do? Just do a District 9 thing. Herd them all into internment camps. Bloody prawns. Fucking prawns. Next one. Let's finish this, shall we? About the balance between Alliance and Horde characters. Now I have to level up all my characters. It's going to be 20 versus 100 Horde fighting. You just need a better battle cry. Why do you keep thinking of this? I mean, people have this strange idea that their tiny little microcosm also reflects the entire WoW community. It doesn't. This idea that, oh, Alliance are terrible at PvP. Factually false. It's just the little perspective that you have. People have this idea that their subjective view on things is actually fact and indeed cosmic frickin' law. It's not. You don't get 20 versus 100 Horde all the bloody time. It's going to vary on a server-by-server basis, and you know what? There's not going to be 100% balance on every server. Indeed, there's not going to be 100% balance on everything. Holy crap, that is insanity. I never realized that would be the case. We'll have a film at 11. Deal with it. If you don't like it, move to another battle group or another server that has a balance that's more in your favour. And then, of course, the other side can cry that the balance is skewed. Ugh. Never-ending cycle of whining. Could you make the heroic training dummy more interactive? Well, I suppose scrubs need something they can beat. Next question. Are you going to implement the dance studio? Oh, go to hell with the dance studio. Is it... I like this answer. This answer is good. Let me read it for you. Yeah, well, you get the Worgen and Goblin dance. They're pretty awesome. We've been doing some work on that. We just want to see when to introduce it. We need to make sure we add a lot of new dancers. Whenever the animators have free time, we make them do new dances. Oh, God. That's horrible. Make the new dancers! And you've just got Metzin on the back of these drums at the back on boom, boom, boom. Animate! Animate! Animation is... We wanted it to be a cool feature, too. There wasn't much gameplay in the barbershop, for example. We want to add more gameplay. You have to... Oh, God, no! It's DDR in WoW! Don't do it, Blizz! You know you don't want to do that. They're gonna do it, aren't they? Oh, they're gonna add it. They're gonna add it. Oh, no. We had enough of that with Hagen. Next question. Are you going to add more alchemy research things? Probably. Next question. Blood Elves weren't a large part in Wrath of the Lich King, and is Lorthamar actually going to be a leader instead of just a regent? The amusing thing is that somebody said reagent. This transcription is not good. Is it going to be a reagent? Yeah, guys, we're going to need to go farm again. I need 5 more Lorthamars to make our flasks. In Cata, we have a new faction. They counter to the Explorers League. Lorthamar is absolutely being developed into a more leadership kind of guy, and we absolutely want to put him in the front. But you can't, because he's got terrible quotes. Do not touch the hair! Oh, God, guys, don't touch the hair. I'm way too good at that. Will there be predictable high-damage phases where healers and tanks can plan their cooldowns together? We have planned areas and some bosses where you need to coordinate your cooldowns. Yeah, and we've actually seen some of them, and they're fairly freaking crazy. I'm gonna do one class thing, just because this one is relevant. It keeps getting asked at every Blizzcon and never gets fixed. Blade's Edge Arena. I'm on a bridge as a mage, and I blink backwards. I mean, what the hell? Well, when you blink, make sure you're facing the right way. Don't give me that, Blizzard. You know the bug is there. It's been there forever. Please. Anytime we find bugs like that, we absolutely try to fix them. The geometry, especially like Blade's Edge. Things don't line up correctly and it causes a hiccup. We try to fix that. And consistently, I might add fail, and have done so for the past 6 years. Fix the blinking! Oh my god! Deal with the codes! What is wrong with it? I don't know. I like the fact it's like, try blinking in the right direction, like somehow that's gonna fix it. If you've ever been a mage, you know exactly what I'm talking about. My name is TotalBiscuit. I want to play some propaganda for you, Sepultura, since that's mostly what that Q&A was. I'll be right back, and I think I'll do my own Q&A with blackjack and hookers right after the break. Send them in, themurloc@gmail.com. Any questions you happen to have about claticalism. That's when you drop it on the floor, folks. Claticalism. Sepultura, enjoy. I'll be right back. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on cynicalbrit.com. Yes, indeed, folks, the better Q&A, or probably not, knowing my luck. Oh, dear. At least I'm allowed to be sarcastic and insult people on my Q&A, whereas Blizzard really can't. Like, we're going to insult our paying customers. Yeah, it doesn't go down too well. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Hey TB, this is from Genzen, level 80 troll mage on Trainer EU. Was watching the live stream last night of Insidia on Nefarian. I was wondering if you think allowing top guilds into the beta to beat the content is a good idea. Had an argument in G-Chat yesterday. I believe it is a good thing, free bug testing and whatnot. But the counter argument was that they ruin it for everyone else. I mean, come on, if they don't beat it in the beta, they'll beat it after launch, right? Well, yeah, exactly. They're still going to beat you. Don't get these delusions of grandeur, folks, that you're going to beat these guys. You're not. It's as simple as that. You know, the way that I like to view progression is to not actually rate it against other people. I like doing encounters that are hard and getting gratification out of that. Measuring myself against other guilds is really irrelevant for me. I mean, we've been into this argument before in the fact that I don't think that anyone should be testing. I think Blizzard should be. But at the end of the day, yes, Insidia are probably still going to beat you. And as to whether or not they get preferential treatment and actually get into the beta that way, I really don't know. It does seem very likely. I mean, with Paragon getting that raid position over at BlizzCon, it seems likely that Paragon were given access specifically to test. But you never know, honestly. I mean, it is entirely possible to get people and get beta keys and things like that. But like I say, I hold a split view on it, really. In the current state of affairs, yes, you do need that to happen. It just sucks that they actually do it. It would be nice if everyone was restricted, but like I say, I don't think Insidia should be barred from playing by any stretch of the imagination. They should have the same chance as anybody else, but that would require the way that it actually worked and the way that everything was tested to be significantly different. And the problem is right now that it's not. And the way that it is I would rather have the guilds testing the content and making it good in the current environment than not have them test it and it suck on launch. What else do we have? Difficulty scaling. In regards to Firebans, you've noted that Blizz is taking a positive direction in regards to the difficulty curve, but how have the raids been? Are they sufficiently difficult to challenge players, but also allow people who aren't top-notch to learn and improve their gameplay? Or is that strictly the place of the Firebans, and raids are tuned to be exclusively a growing scale of difficulty? Here's the thing, you don't learn anything by being a total failure and still succeeding. You can only learn if you fail. Failure is the best teacher. Like, I screwed this up. How did I screw it up? Okay, I screwed up for this, and this reason. Let's try and be better. It's very, very simple a concept, and it seems to have been eradicated a little bit within Wrath. I mean, it was definitely pushed to the sidelines. We're talking about goalposts that keep moving all the time, and the bar is lowered for people that suck. Right now, rating is really, really good in Cataclysm Beta, and you know what the best thing is? The quote is? The great quote that I literally shouted from the rooftops, oh yeah, this is awesome. They said this week that most of the normal mode raid bosses are currently too easy and they'll be buffing them. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Look upon thy raids and despair. Yeah, gonna be fun. Right now, raiding is really good, and it's getting better as well. So fun. Hey TB, here's a question. How do you feel about outdoor raid bosses being added into Cataclysm? I mean, like the whale shark or the giant mind-controlling octopus. It's not really the mind-controlling octopus isn't really a world boss per se. But hey, do you think they're awesome to have around, or do you think they'll be removed for people QQing? No! No, they won't be removed. Oh no, I ran into this giant whale shark that's about 300 foot across. I didn't see it, Blizz, I didn't see it! Nerf immediately! I couldn't see it because all I see in my eyes are a constant stream of tears. Yeah, keep them in. Kill some scrubs. Yeah, Voilin also asks, do you jump for joy at the normal mode raid thing? Yeah. Yeah, I do. Okay. What else do we have in the Q&A? Have any changes to the Orc starting zone? Some. Not enough to really justify a video. I don't know, I haven't been back there in a while. The last time I checked it, they aren't letting the boars wander around. They've actually put them in a farm now. It's like, well, that makes sense, I suppose. There's all these boars around, and all we're doing is keep killing them. Why don't we just, I don't know, corral them? Oh, look, there you go. There have been some changes to it. I don't know if there's enough to justify me doing a playthrough, but I will probably try it anyway. We'll see. I'll wait towards the end of the beta for that to happen, because they might have some changes to still be done there. But yeah, it has been altered a little bit. Do you think the design of the zone has an impact on the questing experience? Yeah, of course it does. Always. The design of your zone depends on what kind of quests you can put in there. Oldham is a prime example. There's a lot of quests that involve you going into tombs and ancient shrines and things like that. And even the aesthetic of a zone can add to the way that quests are designed. And technically, you could design the quest in any zone, but it's going to work more effectively in some as opposed to others. I suppose you could have the big arena quest, the Crucible of Carnage. There could be a version in Oldham if you so desired. There could be one in Mount Hyjal, but it works better in Twilight Highlands, and it's just more atmospheric that way. As to whether or not it affects the mechanics, generally not. Unless, of course, you're talking about something like Vashia, where it definitely would affect the mechanics because you're underwater. But aside from that, no. Oh, I have so many people asking about this normal mode thing. Yeah, it's going to be great. Trust me. You know how there was an event when Wrath of the Lich King was released? There was an invention of zombies. Do you think there's going to be a cataclysm? But there already is. It's called the Shattering. It's definitely coming in. There's going to be tons of pre-quests. Stuff that's going to be happening. What do you feel the removing volley was a horrible decision? If not, why? The pain. What's your opinion on the difficulty curve of Cataclysm? The problem with Wrath, in my opinion, was the difficulty curve was erratic, more accurately non-existent. I hope it's been improved in Cataclysm. Does it do an appropriate job of each previous tier? Normal modes, heroics, raids, and then heroic raids, and each previous boss, preparing you for the next as best it can. Well, mostly, yeah. There have been some changes to heroics that I don't like, and to normals, I might add. I don't think normal really prepares you for heroic in any real way, because it doesn't kill you, so you don't learn anything. And then when heroic does kill you, you start getting upset. Oh no, the normal 5-man mode didn't do this to me. Well, yeah, it wouldn't. But it's a lot better than Wrath. That's all I can say. I don't think it's perfect. I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done on it still. Particularly the idea of heroics being hard. Like, the difficulty curve for heroics is actually all over the place. There are some which are really easy, like Vortex Pinnacle, and then you've got the brick wall that is the first boss of the Stone Core. You're going to have a variance in difficulty, but I don't think they're doing a particularly good job of making it ramp up. It's like, okay, bosses are getting harder till the end. That's not the case. As to whether or not that should be the case, well, that's a matter for another time, honestly. I don't have the time to debate it. I don't have too much of a problem with there being a little bit of variance in the difficulty and not there being a straight curve up from first to last boss. But generally speaking, the last boss of a dungeon should be the hardest, and in many cases that is not happening. Shadowfang Keep would be a prime example. The last boss is a bloody joke, whereas boss 1 is a brick wall of hard, and boss 3 isn't all that easy either. It's weird. What else have we got? Let's see. Hello, TotalBiscuit. In the last patch on Live, Blizzard removed the Chill of the Throne effect. even though I can guess. What is your view on this? Well, didn't they remove the chill of the throne effect as a result of them changing the way that the talents and things worked? If they removed it so that everyone could see the content, then it's just yet another slap in the face for everyone that did it at the proper time. Chill of the Throne sucked anyway. I don't even know what this is. What is Daniel Rustage even emailing me about here? What about the kids who will leave WoW because of this? Then Blizzard will get less customers. What are you talking about? What? God. This is not a conversation, it's emails. You have to actually say what you're talking about. Oh, man. Hey, TB, have you tried Cho'Gall yet? Well, yeah, there's a video on my channel. What do you think of him? He's freaking hard, is what I think of him. Holy, he is so freaking cool. More Cho'Gall, please. He's nuts. Real big fan of that one. What are your plans for the podcast post-Cataclysm? Well, I'll do what I always do. The show. It's been going on for 5.5 years now. I think I can think of something to say. Hey, TB, you should... This is not a question or a topic. That is a request, and you know I don't take those. Cataclysm Q&A. Do you think there'll be special events? Oh, we already had that one. Anyone else? Something legitimate. I think we might be fresh out. Yeah. Yep, fresh out. Cool, shout out time, folks. Thank you very much for listening to the show today. Been going on a little longer than normal. Don't mind that. Email your shout-outs into the Melodic@gmail.com. That is the Melodic@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can send it through via IRC. IRC.quakenet.org, # cynical Brit. Send it in, I'll do your shout-outs, and then we can end the show. I would like to give a shout-out to my former GM, Sistane of Bloodhoof US, for finally being able to carry a group of 9 scrubs to Lich King. Oh, well done. A shout-out to me for playing DDO because ICC got boring. Yeah, no kidding. That's from Zafir. A shout-out to all Warlocks for still being better than Mages, and you know it's true. Not really, I do more DPS to Mage than the Warlocks do, I'll tell you that for a fact. Will there be more 5-man quests in the starting zones? No, there aren't. Will there be a Deathwing raid? No, Deathwing's just going to leave Azeroth quietly. There's not going to be a raid. Can I get a shout out to the Guild Requiem on Bronzebeard US for rebuilding for Cataclysm and for putting up with me and my gnome sacrifices to the troll gods? Well, yes, you can. That is from Martin Smith. A shout out to Oblivion on Dathramar. TNT are back to tank. Also Mudkip Madness. That's from Anthony Goodmoo. I don't know what you're talking about. A shout out to Dr. Insane in Tiny Chat, aka B-Drone. Please don't kill us. That's from Iron Eyes, a headbanger. He must be Scandinavian. He looks Scandinavian. A shout out to Nordrissel Radio, who are doing an interview with Yogscast tomorrow. Oh, God, why are you doing that? Oh, man. This is... No, don't do that. You have no idea what you're in for. Oh, my. That's from Amarillo. Yeah, 9 p.m. CEST, Central European Summertime, folks. That's 8 p.m. British time. Yogscast interview tomorrow. I'm going to tune into that just to see what they do to you. Oh, man. I'd like to give a shout out to the Grubs on Zul'jin. Grubs are scrubs. That's from Ida Ha. Can I get a shout out to the Orcish Delight on Storm Rage EU for Lichreaver. From Lichreaver. Thanks for 2 years of fun. See you in Cataclysm. A shout out from... What? A shout out to me, Patrick Cherish Render. Thanks. What? A shout out to Mages doing more DPS than Warlocks. True story. 14,500 DPS on Onyxia. Why, yes. A shout out to my little undead priest, Sirius, who just entered Northrend to level there. I know there weren't any gimmicks that made me do that. I'm just that freaking hardcore. Big shout out to Zarin, Kramal, and Al Hayas. You guys are awesome. From Waza. I would like a shout out to Emerald Horde Dreamside. No. Emerald Dream Horde side for being terrible. That's from Swed K, Troll Shaman. Shout out to my mate Bertom Varg for being awesome at tanking. Shout out to Jada on Senjin from Lil Rex. I miss you. Where is Tinkertown? Tinkertown is currently located at the top of the Twilight Spire. Shout out to Dinner Raiding on Earthen Ring EU for killing Syndragoza, heroic 25-man mode. Congratulations. Do you think that some classes have too many buttons? Press button, it's hard. Yes. Shout out to my soon-to-be dwarf mage, Dumbledorf. for finally getting Lore Master. Why would you do this? A shout out to JNex for leveling his second level 80 for trollface.jpg due to lack of content. I am so very bored. A shout out to Chillers, Frostmain EU, Zerg Guild, to Cataclysm, that's from Jesper Carlson. And last but by no means least, ladies and gentlemen, a shout out to my guild, the Goon Squad, on Sargeras, for all the great people we found and stuck with us. Now on to Kata. That's from Serifera. Ladies and gentlemen, my name has been TotalBiscuit. Go check out the rest of my videos on youtube.com/TotalHalibut. I know some stuff later on. I think I'm going to maybe do some warging. I'm also going to do a little guide to rep vendors. Sounds like a plan. Yeah, we'll do that. And a few other things. Thank you ever so much for listening to the show. Always appreciated, folks. Like I said, hospital Monday, so I don't know what will be happening with the videos. I will keep you posted. Oh, I'll also do one more shout-out, actually. That's to Laura... Oh, God, I never get a freaking name right. I'm going to screw this up, aren't I? Let me get it right so that I don't sound like a complete and total fool. Where is it on my freaking favorites list? Laura Shigihara. It's probably not the way that you actually do it. Oh, there's actually a download for this, but I refuse to play it. I'm sorry, I'm not playing a Blood Elf song. It's a good song, but it's Blood Elves and it cannot infect my stream. But a shout out to Laurie Shigihara, nonetheless, for doing an awesome song about a terrible race. My name's been TotalBiscuit. This has been Blue Plz. You have been listening to it, as you might imagine. Thank you very much. What can we go out on? Certainly nothing about Blood Elves, I'll tell you that for a fact. I can think of a better idea. Something about Trolls by Daryl Brewer. It's the Troll Dance. Good night.
Hey everybody, you got your disco shoes on? Man, I hope not. Oh well, here we go! I'm just a troll with nothing to do, but I've got a little proposition just for you. Me and my brothers, well, we know how to groove, so if you give me some gold, I might just show you a move. I could go out and do a money quest or something, but all I really wanna do is dance. You see, when you've got the moves, you really ought to flaunt them. Who knows, you may start a new romance.
You have been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz, WoW's #1 shock jock show, only on cynicalbrit.com. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to leave a comment on